Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. And like I said in the open, this is a special show because we're going to celebrate the national championship. LSU Tigers gymnastics team just won their first ever. And boy, has it been a whirlwind 12 days. I cannot wait to talk to Sierra Ballard. She came last year right after they finished in the Final Four last year. I'm not sure the gymnastics calls it like basketball Final Four, but that's what I'm calling it today. And we have her and her father. Last year, remember, we had Jay Clark, the coach, with her. Well, her dad's been kind of a coach in a way, you know, as a dad. And he also did some coaching up there at Georgia, but we'll get to that in a second. We're going to do the wide shot here because, hey, we got a lot of props out here. We got the LSU stuff for obvious reasons. Sierra, national champion. There's the national championship trophy that they give to each gymnast, which is awesome. They have the big one, and then they give these, which I think is great. And then we got Jazz Fest, of course, over there, because that's Jazz Fest. And we even got a little Tulane stuff out here because our man Steve played football at Tulane, so we got the helmet, and we got the batting helmet, and then also everybody loves the Saints, so of course I've got to keep a Saints ball out here. They grew up Saints fans, so that's why we got the Saints. But moving forward, I got to get to you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you. And welcome, Steve.
Thank you, buddy.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to be here.
Everything good?
Everything's great.
I guess these last 12 days have been a whirlwind.
Yeah, it really has. It's flown by. I still feel like I'm in a dream, but we're making it through. I mean, finals too is all of the celebration and then finals on top of it. It's really been 12 days to remember.
They didn't let you off a little of schoolwork? Lessen the load? I know this is the 52nd national championship overall for Tiger Athletics, but they don't happen every day. You would think they'd give you a little bit of a break. No breaks, huh?
Yeah, no breaks. Got to stay on schedule.
Well, I remember last year you were here, and you kind of were alluding that this team was ascending, I mean growing, you know, and when you go from Final Four, I don't know if that was a surprise to y'all. I don't think it would have been, but the rest of the country, it was a little bit, hey, LSU's arrived, right? When you said this last year, y'all were ascending, there's only a couple more places you can go. Third, second, or first. Did you think that first was attainable last year at this time?
1,000% I did. I knew, I had a feeling in my bones. Just the way that we handled last year and like all the adversity that we were dealt and just coming back through and through week by week and just pushing and like making fourth place was wild in its own. Like,
it was phenomenal.
We weren't expected to do that with everything that had happened to us that year, and so just our mindset and like our connection with each other is what got us there. And so being able to build off of that this year and having the talent and having the healthy people, I just knew that it was possible.
You said that last year, if it was healthy, because I remember you just filling in so many different ways last year. I don't want to call you a Swiss Army knife, but it seemed like every time they needed somebody to come up big, you were doing it in the clutch last season. And I remember this year, I don't know if it was Steve, it might have been your Uncle Scott, sent me something when you did like, you got some incredible score in the Final Four thing. Tell me about that because I'm not positive. I just remember getting a text and he's like, look at what just happened with Sierra.
Yeah, we ended on beam at the championship meet, like in the Final Four. And I was first up on beam, and it was the only event I was competing the entire day, so I kind of had to wait around until the last event, and it was really close. We were down going into the last rotation. Everything was real tight, and I went up there and I got a personal best.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And without that, I mean, y'all would have had a little more trouble possibly winning. I don't know. I think everybody accumulates these scores, right? I mean, tell people how it works, because I know there's beam, there's floor, and all the rest. Tell people that don't know a lot about gymnastics. I know you kind of did this last year, but I know we're going to have some new listeners, viewers. Tell what all that entails gymnastics in college.
Yeah, so there's 4 events.
Right.
We have vault, bars, beam, and floor.
Okay.
And then you have 6 people compete, and the top 5 scores count. And everybody is scored out of a 10.
Okay.
And so your goal, obviously, like the ultimate goal, 200, but like a 198 is like a pace that we go for, like as a team collectively. And so the top 5 count really just gives you a little bit of wiggle room there, and it gives you like room for a mistake if that happens. But if there is a mistake, then that's a lot of pressure on the rest of the lineup to hit.
Yeah. So last year you had injuries, and remind me, was Kaya hurt last year? Who were the people that were hurt last year that came back this year? Part of the people that you said getting healthy.
Yeah, Kaya was injured last year.
Kaya Johnson?
She tore her Achilles like in the second meet of the year. So she was out. We had Annie Beard was out with a shoulder injury. We had some people out, just like with KJ broke her foot halfway through the season.
Yeah.
And then came back and then broke it again at nationals.
These were all decorated gymnasts, right? I mean, that's why last year was
starters, if you will, right?
Was even as remarkable as this year. There you are last year with your injury.
Oh yeah.
You were fighting through last year, right? I mean, you were doing some of the stuff and you were sucking it up. I mean, that's not probably the right word to use, but you were gutting it out. How about that?
Yes.
Yeah. As a dad, tell me what you saw.
Well, last year was an amazing resiliency by that team, and I think Sierra made a good comment that she absolutely felt like what they went through last year set them up for this year.
Right.
There's only so much more you can ascend, right? You're right there. You can see the peak.
Yeah.
You just gotta go reach out and grab it. And I think they did a great job this year of one, staying healthy, but two, staying within themselves. And one of their theme of the year was get there, right? Last year it was the climb, and then this year it was get there,
right?
Like we've climbed, we've ascended, now we got to get there.
It's the next step.
So one of the really good things I think they focused on, especially post Missouri. They had a stumble and lost to Missouri this year.
What month would that have been? Like, what were we talking about?
February.
In February.
Early February.
It was a wake up call, maybe.
Well, it was. I wouldn't say a wake up call as much as was a kind of a message that I think they used it for resetting how they approach things. Right. Like we had a pretty good meet, but we didn't quite finish it off. Right. So from that meet on, I think you saw them approach their meets totally differently in that their whole focus was, we don't need to worry about everybody else on the floor.
Yeah.
We only need to worry about our normal, right? And so their normal was enough.
Before I confuse everybody, because we haven't laid the groundwork yet, I said Steve played football at Tulane, but he's been very intimately involved in gymnastics for several reasons. He married a superstar gymnast at Georgia, and I'll let you take from there because he did some coaching at Georgia.
I did.
I'm not 100% completely clear exactly the roles, but before people like this guy's talking like he's an expert, I said I feel like I should clarify that you do know a lot about gymnastics and not just as a dad. Yeah.
I do. A lot of my friends don't understand either how I got involved in gymnastics, but I went to Georgia for graduate school. My sister Julie was there on a scholarship. And gymnastics scholarship. She introduced me to her teammate, Lori Strong. Lori Strong and I ended up getting married. And
still married.
Yep. And had 3 wonderful children. But during that span, I was in there for graduate school getting a master's in sport management. And at the time, there were the sport of gymnastics only had 1 assistant coach. The NCAA approved a 2nd assistant coach while I was there.
With Susan Yaculin,
Suzanne Yaculin,
yes.
And so she's
a legend.
She's a legend. 10 national titles. She was a remarkable leader and coach. She actually was the one who said, hey, look, you're really close to the team. You're like the big brother of the team. I had been working and coaching gymnastics with little kids just for extra money as a job.
Right.
I worked their summer camps, learned how to spot and do all that stuff. She's like, you know, we're really close to winning a national title. I don't want to bring in another technical coach necessarily. I want a motivator and a recruiting coordinator.
Yeah.
And so she brought me in and taught me the business, her and Doug McGavin. Doug said, listen, spent the whole summer teaching me how to coach our gymnast on bars. Right? He's like, you don't need to know how to coach everybody on bars. You just need to know.
And let me add
girls.
one more thing. The current LSU coach, for those of you who don't know, was at Georgia. And he was an assistant with Yaculin, and then he took over for a while as head coach. Yeah, explain that a little bit, because then we're going to get back to
Jay and I lived with Jay while I was in graduate school, and he was an assistant coach, and he stepped down because one of the things that he wanted to prove was, one of the things when he was out recruiting, they would say, oh, you're just taking our kids that we develop, and you take all the credit for their college. So one of the things he was real passionate about was, I want to learn how to develop kids. I want to learn I want to be known as a gymnastics technical coach as well. So he had stepped down from coaching and started his own gymnastics club.
Wow. Okay.
In Athens.
I did not know that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my wife Lori actually helped him, was one of his head coaches at his club program. And so Lori and I ended up coaching together at Georgia, and she coached with Jay, helping him start that
and
club.
The reason this is really full circle weird is that I was working at Fox Sports Net and Turner Sports in Atlanta for 20 years, right? And we did several features with Suzanne Yaculin, and I had met Jay.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the weird full circle of this. And then, you've been involved, and then you produced this beautiful, wonderful athlete right here.
Yeah.
Who's now a national champion herself.
She is.
I mean, it's crazy.
SEC champion, a national champion, and an All-American.
Yep.
And give her a high five.
She pretty much checked off the list this year.
Well, I remember seeing you won the SEC this year, right?
Yeah, we did.
And I watched that in pride because the SEC is so strong, right? We know who's there: Florida, Georgia, all the ones that can do it. Let's just go there with you because you got that one out of the way. And listen, we know the national championship, but that was huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, getting the SEC championship, explain that and what it took to win it and how it felt.
Yeah, that was crazy. It was literally a storybook ending. It was in the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans.
Yep, 2 blocks from where I live, right there.
And it was right there. And the last time it was in New Orleans was the last time that LSU had won. And so it was like a full circle moment.
With Dee?
Yes, with Dee.
Okay, Dee Bro for the.
They won in 2019 in the Smoothie King Center.
Yes.
And they debuted the Wonder Woman Leo. And then this year, it was 5 years later, we knew that we had a really strong shot at winning SECs.
Yeah.
It was in New Orleans again. 5 years later, we debuted a new Leo that was like the 2.0 version of the Leo they wore last time.
Explain that, the leotard, right? I mean, we're talking about explain what you mean, but I was catching on. I'm a Leo in the Zodiac world. But I'm like, what's he talking about? Leotards.
The leotard.
Okay, right.
That's like our uniform.
Right,
and so when we get into postseason, we get like 4 to 5 new leotards a year. And so they're like designed really early, and when we get into postseason, we get to start debuting them. And it's like each meet we go to, we get to debut a new Leo. So I mean, that's like all the motivation to make it to the next meet, right?
Absolutely.
Because once you get into postseason, it's survive and advance every single time. And so it was just our first Leo that we got to debut that year, and it was like really special because it was to commemorate the last Leo that they wore, and they won
when they won 5 years earlier, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like a step up from that, and like it was kind of representing this team as being like a step up from that, and it's like the new dynasty of LSU Gym.
Well, I remember our mutual friend Kyle France was telling me, because he was the head of the Louisiana Sports and Exposition District, and I went to high school with him and college. But the fact is he was so as proud of the LSU team in 19 doing what they did, then getting the Super Bowl, Final Four, this is a fact, and the national championship game. He goes, every time I bring those three things up when he was on, and the great dome renovations, he says, please do not leave out that gymnastics SEC tournament in there. And then when LSU won, and then having it there, that's a big deal for them, and he loved having it, and he's so proud of y'all as well.
Well, one of the things that makes that really special as well is the SEC, and going back to when I was coaching, the SEC championships used to rotate to a particular school. They would bid on it, much like regionals is now.
Yeah.
So you'd actually be in someone's home field, right? Like in their stadium.
Not fair.
Not necessarily fair. And then the majority of them were held after that in Birmingham, which is Alabama's backyard. So it never did feel fair,
right?
To some schools. But the really great thing about New Orleans is that we've had the highest two attendance ever in SEC championships history, where both of them were here in New Orleans. So that's a testament to the fans of LSU and the draw that New Orleans is.
This is a good question for you on that topic. Since you've been at LSU, right, which is 4 years, I believe, or
yes,
4 or 5. Okay. What have you seen in the rise of gymnastics at LSU as far as fan support, and talk about that and how special it is and what it means to the gymnasts themselves?
Yeah, I mean, just growing up in Louisiana, like I've been able to go to LSU meets from a very young age, and just seeing what Jay and Dee Dee did to really grow the brand of LSU, and like watching the stadium fill up like every single year, more and more people.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool because when I came in to LSU, it was already a big brand, and like it was already well known, and they had been doing really well and like accomplishing so much.
Sure.
I mean, they were runners up like 3 years in a row at nationals.
Yeah, I think I have a shot at Jay bringing Dee Dee on to when y'all were doing. Yeah, there, right there. Okay, I'm going to say 30 seconds on this. When Dee Dee was on the show a couple times, but the first time she was on, and I have to admit, I hadn't been to one, she said, get up there. I went up there as a media person, and I'm like really blown away. That's really when I think I got into gymnastics.
Yeah.
You got me last year, really, your team, following it last year. When y'all started rolling, and from like late February, maybe early March, till y'all got to the Final Four, I was into every meet. You know, I'm like following it. You know, I get updates from your dad, but it was just nice. I love it, and I think it's just a wonderful sport. Obviously, everybody knows the Olympics. Everybody watches the gymnastics there, but the college level is just as fun to me.
It is, and every single team is good now. It's anybody's game, and so the competition has just gotten even more cutthroat as the years have evolved, and so it's really exciting. It's like a performance in there. It's a show, and so you get to go in and have fun. I think it's a great environment to bring your kids and to bring your families and just spend a Friday night with us in the PMAC.
What's your take on that? Because I have another question following.
Yeah.
Everybody's in it now.
Yeah, my take on that is you will be hard-pressed to find a more entertaining night with your family or just with your spouse or friends.
Right.
I've had so many friends who are like, dude, like, it's weird, but I'm loving this gymnastics thing. I never thought. I'm like,
That's so true.
You'd be surprised. I'm in my doctor's office, and he's like, hey, what's going on this week? They're all watching on, now that it's on TV.
Yes.
But what you miss from the TV and not being in person is it is like a Barnum and Bailey circus in there. I mean, it is absolutely exciting, and it doesn't take that long. It's like an hour and 20 minutes, and you're in and out, but it is
action-packed.
Action-packed, and the performances, the energy, the girls are so involved with the fan base.
The drama. Because one little misstep, man, it should change the entire meat, right? I mean,
100%.
The landings we all know, but on the beams, and I mean, I don't know how you girls do it. I don't know how anybody does it. Like, I mean, listen, I sit in awe. I sit in awe, and I've played many sports, and I'm, was proud playing them. But I'm like thinking I could never do anything like this ever in my life.
Dude, you should see it when we're in the meet, and we go to the last up, and Sierra goes first. Sierra's about to go first up.
Yeah.
And Utah is a little more than a tenth ahead of us.
Yes.
But they're on vault, and the way the beam was situated, Sierra could see the vaulters faulting. They go first, and we have to wait for them because of TV. They alternated.
Sure.
They go first, and the first girl from Utah falls. And all of a sudden, like it's right in front of our stands where the LSU be, and we're like, oh my God. And then we turn and we're like, so I then go, oh crap. Sierra's got to go right now. Like, I'm nervous, right? Okay. But everybody's excited and on beating breath. Well, tell him what you said. Like, she gives a look to Jay and gives him a nod, and they each told me separately this story afterwards.
Yeah, let her tell.
Yeah,
what was it? This is interesting. I have a question on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
So the Utah person had just fallen, right?
Yeah.
And this is coming off of that.
I wasn't like, I don't try and watch other people when I compete, but it was like, just so happened I was sitting there and I was like waiting for the flag to raise, and I like looked over and I saw it in the like corner of my eye.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, you can take this one of two ways. You can either be like, well, I guess like you have a shot to like, you can mess up now, kind of.
Right.
Or you can take it as an opportunity and take the horse by the reins and go for it. And so that's what I decided to do. I was like, I said this at the parade. I was like, if you're gonna open the door, I'm gonna kick it in.
What a line! If you're gonna open the door, I'm gonna kick it in. I have a lot about this I want to talk about. We're going to come back from break because I have a lot on that. And then the teams that were in it last year compared to the teams this year, because y'all eliminated Oklahoma, I believe, in the 8, right? Or the 16 or something.
They eliminated themselves.
Yeah. But they were out. Okay, but they got out. Okay, but we'll talk about that. But I also want to follow up on what you just said, because it's interesting when you talk about people when they other opponents when they fail. I want to get to what you think about, because they're also fellow gymnasts. You don't want anybody to fail, but you also know that, hey, this opens the door for us, and we're about to kick it down. We're going to come right back and talk more about that right here. And what I also love is I don't usually have this much time with any guest, but we're getting down to the nuts and bolts of it all right here in Primetime Sports. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss the rest of this.
Rock and roll rockin' bowl at the city lane. All night, let's bowl, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rockin' bowl at Mid-City Lanes, the home of rockin' bowl.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
You've heard about rugby, the hard hits, the whole no pads thing, but rugby is more than that. It's this, a whole day, a whole culture.
Well, the fans bring the energy, so we better bring it too.
Every play, every match, for the city we call home.
This is rugby, and we are Nola Gold.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I can't wait to get back into this. I didn't want to go to commercial, but we had to. Hey, but real quick, I have Stephen Ballard with his daughter, Sierra. Stephen, he and his brothers, they own PJ's Coffee, Ballard Brands. They do all that. So they're New Orleans folks. You know that. He went to Grace King, played football there as well. His daughter, also a New Orleanian. She went up to LSU and has been being in gymnastics for years. And let's start there real quick before I get to my next question about when did you get into gymnastics? I know we already heard his story about how he got into it, being the roommate. His sister was roommates with, or teammates with his future wife. How did you get into it?
Yeah, it was just like my family. Like, they've always been involved in gymnastics, obviously, as he told the whole background. But I like to tell the story. My mom actually didn't want me to do gymnastics. She wanted me to be a tennis player.
Okay, that's interesting.
She roomed with tennis players at Georgia. And so she was really into that, but they put me in the sport anyway just because of like everything that it teaches you, from like discipline, time management, like just awareness of your body. And I think it's a great sport for every single athlete to start out in. And then I just happened to fall in love with it, and I never looked back.
Well, your mom was a bulldog. He was a pseudo bulldog, even though it was a green wave. He was there working with the program.
I was a bulldog.
Was UGA rooting for the Bull? Well, you were an LSU thing now, so we finally got you on the right side.
Yeah.
But was it hard to get in that LSU shirt?
Heck yeah.
Okay, but you're wearing it proudly today.
I'm a Tulane guy.
I hear you. But hey, we can be both, man. I was a huge Tulane fan growing up, and I was always liked both. LSU, I went to LSU. I loved LSU.
I grew up a Tulane fan, went to Tulane, played football at Tulane, loved Tulane, bled green and blue, still do. Sierra's a big Tulane fan.
Yeah.
We love them both.
It helps that we don't play each other in football anymore. But all the grandkids, my nieces and nephews, everybody went to LSU.
Except for that little Reggie Reginelli period, and of course the '73. Tulane got tired of getting beat up in football. I was tired of it by LSU as a kid. I was cheering for Tulane when they won 14-0.
We still have more SEC championships than Mississippi State. So
okay, there we go.
SEC since '68.
They have it. In fact, the guy that owns Task is the last All-SEC player ever. He's basketball, of course.
Yep.
But moving forward, so you got in because of the family. Did you try tennis at all?
No, I mean a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried a lot of sports, but I was big soccer and gymnastics.
What age did you play all this stuff? Like, when did you get into gymnastics? When did you start playing soccer?
I started gymnastics at 2 years old.
Hello.
Yeah. 2.
2.
And then I solely started just doing gymnastics at probably like 8-ish.
I was in a law firm. I was in law school, and I worked for a law firm that there's this lady who's a paralegal. Her daughter was in gymnastics, and this is how I know a little bit about how crazy y'all's hours are and how crazy being a parent to the sport is. Like, she would take this girl at 4 a.m. and do these workouts because she would come all groggy to work, and I was in school, so I didn't get there till noon. She was almost passed out by then, so I worked like 3 hours in the middle of the day. But talk about what it's like first as a person that's going through this as a youngster, and then I went to the parent perspective. What's this like? I mean, is there a time you're just like, I can't do this anymore? Because y'all's training, the precision that you guys have is obvious anybody that watches the sport regularly. So the training is obviously intense. But what is it like for you? Do you ever get like, man, this is too much?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, every single gymnast goes through a moment of like what if I quit right now? But it's hard to let go of something that you've been doing for so long.
Yeah.
And when you get to do it with the people that you love, like I get to do right now, it makes it all the more worth it. So just like having that future goal and like having those aspirations to go to college and to compete for a team was kind of what got me through high school. And then as soon as I got to LSU, I like never thought that, just because every connection that I've had with all of my teammates, like in the connections I've had with the people at LSU, they just make everything that I had to do to get there worth it.
I'm having a brain cramp, and I hate this, but I can't. Did you go to like Mandeville or St. Scholastica over there? Where'd you
went
go?
to Mandeville
You
High.
went to Mandeville High School. Okay, okay. You're across the lake. So at Mandeville High, what's the gymnastics like there?
Well, it's not really a high school
That's what I
program.
didn't think it
It's
was.
like,
Okay.
Yeah, very rec. I went to North Shore Gymnastics growing up.
Right.
It's great. I mean, gymnastics in Louisiana is a little rough. There's not many gyms.
Sure.
It's not, I guess you would say, the peak state of gymnastics.
Right.
So it takes a lot of discipline, takes a lot of hard work, takes a lot of trust in your coaches.
Yeah.
And just belief in yourself to
Well, it's like Kristen Nuss. She was here just a couple weeks ago. She said, listen, everybody trains or grew up in Florida, California, and she demands to train here. She wants to make this big, and she's a part of what's making beach volleyball big.
Yeah.
Your squad is definitely a part of what making gymnastics popular down here, and it's only going to spawn more gyms, more gymnasts, and who knows, this thing could just keep growing. And as a guy that's seen this kind of thing for 30 years, at first at Georgia and down the road, you can see the potential of this, right?
Oh, absolutely. And look, part of that 96 team that won the Olympics in Atlanta, you've seen, the popularity of the collegiate sport absolutely was because of that, right? That
I was there.
Mary Lou Retton in '84.
I was there, yep.
And then in '96 we had, that Olympics in Atlanta, and that really spawned it. We have, college gymnastics now. They use level 10 rules, abridged rules. So it's not like the elite level. It's a little not as hard, I should say.
Yeah.
In terms of skill development. So the parity is tremendous because the sport after '96, every mom put their daughter in gymnastics, and the amount of gymnasts we have coming up is absolutely tremendous. The talent. There's, I think, there may have been, I think these numbers may not be accurate, but 3,600 level 10s in '96, and now there's 20,000 of them.
Wow.
Right? So just the talent alone.
Well, I'm going to say this. I love that you said you played soccer and other sports, because this girl I was talking about, who I worked at the firm, her mom, there was no chance this girl was playing anything but gymnastics. And I like well-rounded. As a dad that played football, and you love sports in general, I mean, how important was that for you? And segue also into what it was like, because the hours the gymnasts have to train are insane,
Yeah, so I think it's very important to play multiple sports. All of my kids played multiple sports growing up. I have a son now who's in 9th grade at St. Paul's, and he lettered in 3 sports this year as a 9th grader, football, basketball, and track. The neat thing about Mandeville and what worked really well with Mandeville was she didn't have to get up at 4 in the morning to go work out, because Mandeville allowed her to get out of school early and schedule PE as 7th hour, and they let her gymnastics count as her PE.
Of course, why not?
So she got out of school every day at what time? 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
And so she was able to get her schoolwork done. If she had any training work to do, like any physical therapy work or anything like that, she could get all that done, because her practice started at 4:30 and went to 9.
Yeah.
So she worked in the evenings and got home at 9, but she was able to get a lot of her homework done and a lot of her studies, and so she didn't have to stay up to midnight and things like that. So, kudos to Mandeville, and that's one of the big reasons she went to Mandeville, was because the schedule allowed her to be a normal student and to do her gymnastics on they still train 24 hours a week, but.
Okay, for the people that weren't watching in the first 20 minutes, we're going to bring back the comment about, hey, they're going to open the door, I'm going to knock it down.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to that moment, and when we went to break and we're going to talk more about it. Talk about that whole thing. We talked about you saying it, but what happened after that?
I mean, I keep saying it whenever I was competing. That's probably the calmest I've ever been on the beam competing. I think it just goes back to all of the practice that we put in the fall and just knowing how much trust my teammates had in me and the connection that we have with each other. So I was just able to go up there. I was really nervous before I actually saluted and everything.
Yeah.
But the moment that I got on the beam, it was like something washed over me, and I was just so calm. And I was just enjoying my entire up there, just doing my last routine.
It just became second nature. The Lord was with you, certainly, right there.
Yeah,
it took over from that moment. I'm going to say this: last year when you were here, I remember I was asking you about the powers, and you said, hey, Florida, Oklahoma, they always have been kind of there in recent years, I guess. I don't want to say how far back. But this year, when you saw the teams, as Utah, Cal, right? It was in Florida,
Cal.
the other one?
In Florida.
In Florida, those were the four. What was the difference between this year and last year as far as the competition, and were you surprised that Oklahoma didn't make it in? Because everything I'd heard for the last few years, they were one of the main powers.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen in gymnastics, and when you get into postseason, it's like every single day is a bad day to have a bad day. So it's just,
That's
it's
the opposite of a
unfortunate.
Michael Franti song. Yeah. Today's a good day to have a good day, but that's all right.
Yeah, and so it's just anything can happen, and it's like one thing leads to another, but every single person you're competing against once you get to that point is good, and
Right.
every person has a shot, and you can't count anyone out, and so you're gonna have to bring your A game every single day, and that's what we did.
So you say they take the 5 best scores, which makes me think about something, because that means they leave out one bottom. Okay, so if 2 people screw up, right? But then you're kind of done, right?
Yeah.
And that can happen to anybody. So that puts the pressure. What is that like? Because once one person's done it, you have no leeway. You got no mulligans,
right?
So what kind of pressure does that put to make every single step, whether you're on the floor, you're on the beam, the bars, whatever it may be? What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's pressure, but it's just knowing that everything you've done leading up to this point is worth it, and you've taken the steps and you've prepared accordingly to hit. And so we keep saying this, he said it earlier, our normal is enough, and we just got to go out there and do our normal, because every single day we hit. And so why in this moment do you think that you're not going to automatically? And so that's just kind of like the mindset that we took on this year. And that was that mindset switch that we had at Missouri after that tough loss. It was kind of more of approaching your gymnastics in a more confident way and a more realistic approach, as opposed to applying all this pressure on yourself to do your best routine when you compete. It's not about your best, it's about your normal.
What year did Jay Clark take over for DD?
My freshman year.
So that was 2021?
2021 was the first competition season.
Not about the 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
You graduated high school in 20 is what I'm asking?
Yeah.
So you just missed LSU's national championship in football as a student, right?
Yes.
2 of my kids were there at that time. They came from Atlanta to go to LSU, and they'd love to be a part of that. My reason I'm asking is, so Jay took over. Dee Dee was the coach when you were being recruited?
Yes, she was.
Okay, so was Jay was an assistant? Mm-hmm. So was there any, because your mom knew Jay, he knew Jay, obviously they knew each other well. Was LSU, we kind of touched on this, but I didn't finish. Was LSU the one you were going to go with, or were you looking at other places?
I was looking at other places.
Yeah.
Obviously, I knew I wanted to stay in the SEC because, there's no competition like the SEC, and there's no fan base like there is in the SEC. But I was looking at Georgia and Bama. Obviously Georgia, because that's where my mom and my dad went.
No doubt, yeah.
And I grew up loving them. And then LSU right here in my hometown, and Jay being my uncle. Just being around family in general, all of my cousins went to LSU. And then Bama, it's every single school in the SEC is a great school to be at. And it just so happened that LSU felt like home to me.
What was it like competing for your uncle? That could be good and that could be maybe not good. Tell me what that's like.
No, it's great. Growing up with my mom as my coach, I really was able to adapt to having family coach me and having family be involved in the sport I was in, just because it has been very family oriented for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like any other coach for me. I have the same connection with my beam coach that I do with him. So.
Do you and your mom talk gymnastics? I want both of you to answer this. Do y'all talk about strategy, things like that, or y'all? What is that like? Because I know some parents are like all about it, and I get it, and some just like, hey, step back. Or is she somewhere in the middle, or what is she like with this?
Growing up, she was very at the forefront because she was my coach.
Ballard, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay.
She was my coach growing up.
Okay.
In high school and everything. So obviously we talked about gymnastics all the time and like constantly was coaching at home and everything. But as I kind of went into college, she kind of stepped back and like let me do my thing. Because I mean, obviously I have great coaches here and I have great people surrounding me to get me to where I need to be, and she just kind of was able to assume the mom role whenever I came to college, which was great.
On another note, just some change the subject. Where do kids hang out at LSU now? Because I went many years ago, and I was a bartender at Fred's for many years. Is that still a place people go?
Yeah, it is.
Doesn't sound like you go, though. She goes, yeah, it is. I know.
They're in Murphy's.
Oh, that's right. That's right, Murphy's.
I mean,
because Murphy's and Fred's used to be combined.
Yeah.
So Murphy's is the spot on by the old Mr. Gaddy's, right? Across from the thing?
Yeah.
I forgot. Y'all own Murphy's now.
Well, we're
y'all
involved.
part of it.
Yeah.
I got to bring this thing out again because this is each gymnast has their own one of these national championship things. I want to hold this, but because this is the epitome of all sports, man. This girl just won a national championship. I mean, I've had so many people on this show. Karl Malone, for instance, he's been on the show. He's the second all-time leading scorer in NBA history until LeBron just made him third, right?
Yeah.
He never won a national championship. He never won an NBA championship. Pistol Pete never won. I mean, you're a national champion, and you are a significant part of being a national champion. And I want to stress this to everybody watching. This is very unusual, and this is unbelievable accomplishment. And when you hear people like me, because I love sports, obviously. I love all sports. And when I see somebody get to the pinnacle, it blows me away, because when you think about how many teams and how many people are trying to achieve this, you just achieved something that was remarkable. And I got chills just saying these words, for real. I want you to comment on that.
Yeah, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. It's really cool to just like leave a legacy on the school that has given me so much, and just kind of pave the way for those that are to come behind me. And like also, it's like our national championship, but like every single person that came before us, it's also theirs. And like they paved the way for us, and like they were the ones that started the climb, and it wouldn't have been possible without everything that they did. And so being able to finally be the people to get there and to achieve that is just a really cool experience, and I'm hoping I'll never wake up from this dream.
Dad, you want to comment on that real quick?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's remarkable to watch your daughter. I'm going to get emotional.
Yeah.
But
that's what this is for. Get emotional.
She hasn't had the easiest
Look how
road.
fun she is. I mean, this is her, right? This is her.
That's
her. The boom box. That is Sierra Ballard right there.
Sierra vibe.
She's the vibe of the team too. And I'm going to say this: last year, we talked about this. The guard in Denver or whatever was saying those kind words about you. This is your daughter, man. How cool is this?
Look, it's I have not stopped getting emotional. I've probably gotten emotional every day since they won. Look, she didn't have the easiest route there, right? So she wasn't the highest recruited kid in the country. She wasn't, coming in with all the accolades. She didn't do elite gymnastics. She was a level 10. All of those things. She's from Louisiana. LSU doesn't always recruit kids from Louisiana because, like she said, it's not the mecca of gymnastics. They're usually coming from North Carolina or Texas, right, or Ohio.
Dallas, yeah.
From my perspective, I watch her, and she said, "I want to go to LSU. I trust Coach. I trust Jay, Uncle Jay. I love that program." Because she had opportunities to go other places, but she said, "I want to go and compete against the best. I want to go compete and try and win a national title. I don't want to be sitting home watching the Nationals on TV." And so, look, the whole "do you want to go be a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond" kind of thing. And so, I didn't have any doubts that if Sierra would get into the arena, she would find a way to be significant. But I have to say, watching it along the way, she came in freshman year, had a good freshman year, was able to compete. Sophomore year, they got more talented. She didn't get a chance to compete as much. It was hard as a parent to sit back and watch this journey, but she came home in the summers, was steadfast. She'd be like, hey, there are things I can work on, right? You know, as a dad, I'm thinking, oh, you got screwed, you should have been done this. I'm mad at Jay, you know, like just internally, right? Like, I don't agree with the way they did this. We made an agreement not to ever talk to Jay and get involved in her gymnastics or the coaches there, because we said we're not in the gym every day, so it's not even fair for me to have that opinion. Right. But you know, as a parent, you always are protecting your kid. And Sierra's mentality has always been, I got this. Like, I'm okay. I'm doing my thing.
I can see
right?
that. Yeah.
And so to sit back and watch her be her best and amazing, like, not just her best, like as good as anyone in the country.
No doubt. Came up
at the time
and time again when they needed it. Yeah, right.
With the most pressure anyone's ever had that I've ever seen compete. People don't realize what they did as a team on that balance beam to win a national title from behind. To watch your kid do that.
How does this make you feel? Your dad, the pride he's showing, and it's not just pride because you're his daughter. You know, he realized he's an athlete himself, what it took. Yeah,
I mean, he's never been shy to tell me how proud he is of me.
Yeah.
Both my parents and everyone in my family, and I'm really, really appreciative of that, of like how much my family cares about me. And so it's just really cool to see all the support that I receive.
If we thought we were going to have a problem filling the hour, that's out by the wayside. But now I'm running out of time. But I would be remiss not to bring your roommate, who you love. You talked about her last year, Haley Bryant, who has become. Is she the best gymnast in the country now, or is she's up there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, she just won the individual national championship
That's what
as
I'm
well.
saying.
And she just won the Heisman of gymnastics, the AAI award.
Yes, she did.
She's up for the Honda award, which is the best female athlete.
Be her agent right now, because you're doing a good job. Keep going. Keep going.
She's also SEC all-around champion and was All-America on all 4 events and all-around at SECs and at nationals.
I mean, it's remarkable because I know last year y'all had a lot of injuries, and you and her were helping carry the team amongst others. Here's the Gymnast of the Year.
Yeah.
I think, usually we have the shots over here. This might be on. Yeah. I guess we're out. But the fact is this girl who was going to come, she had some commitments she had to finish, but that's beside the point. She was an integral part. We all know the gymnastics is such a team event, but to watch her blossom and get better and better and better, can you comment on that?
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, she came in like really, really awesome at gymnastics. She was always top dog. And then just to see her grow even more every single year and just like reach her potential, it's really awe-inspiring. And just the way that she goes about her business and how committed she is to every single part of her process, and like her recovery and her teammates and everything. And so just she's the pinnacle of excellence, and just watching her do that every single day is just insane.
Y'all, you, Haley, the rest of the team, Kaya, KJ, I could go on with the names. Y'all have made the entire state, not just LSU, proud. You've brought this national championship. You've done it with style. You've done it with class. You've done it the right way. You've done it with enthusiasm. As a graduate myself, I'm very proud, but I just can't thank y'all enough. I mean, it's been an amazing run. Y'all said you might do it, and you did it, and that's remarkable, and I got chills again. I'm thankful that you're here again. I appreciate it, because I know you have a lot. You're finishing up a paper today. She came all the way from Baton Rouge, and she's got to go back, and I want to thank you for that as well.
Of course.
All right, so here, we give some gifts. Hey, I just realized these two colors are almost like Tulane.
I was about to say, that's great color.
Together, so I'm going to give you the green, man, because this size is yours, and this one is what we call, we call this one chambray heather.
Heather, it's like a shade of purple, right?
It's kind of a shade of purple. We'll go there. And Dad, since I think you have a bunch of restaurants, I'm going to go ahead and give both of these. You know Desi Vega. I know you know him.
Well, this is with Desi.
Mr. John's Steakhouse.
We actually do their coffee and their tea at their steakhouse, all of his restaurants.
What's that company called? PJ's?
Yeah, PJ's
That's a plug
Coffee.
for PJ's again.
And New Orleans Roast, yeah.
And I love New Orleans Roast, Southern Pecan. Okay,
Yeah.
Come on.
Every time
And then we got
do it.
Chez de la Chez, which is also de la Chez. You can do the one in St. Charles. The one on Maple's more of a restaurant. But there you go, 2 of those
Thank
for you.
you.
And I thank you both. This has been fun. Tell Haley hello for us, and we love her and the rest of the team, and Jay, of course, too. Sierra,
you.
thank you. This is the first
Thank you,
special
buddy.
non-Tuesday show. It's going to run. It's Friday, and then it's going to run my regular Tuesday slot next week. So we're going to run it a bunch. So thank you once again.
Of course. Thank you.
Hey, that is Sierra Ballard with her father, Stephen Ballard, and what a fun show this was. First time I've ever had, I think, maybe, one set of guests the whole time. I think I might have done it once before. I can't remember. But that was fun. I want to thank everybody at WLAE because our studios are supposed to be closed for a while, and my man William Hill, Will the Thrill is what I call him, and of course Alex Chacon, and of course the people that run the station, Ron Yeager and Jim Dotson. I want to thank them all from the bottom of my heart for letting this show happen because it is very important to me, and I hope it was for y'all as well. So hey, we'll see you coming up soon right here on Primetime Sports.
You've heard about rugby. The hard hits, the whole no pads thing. But rugby is more than that. It's this, the whole day, a whole culture.
Well, the fans bring the energy, so we better bring it too.
Every play, every match, for the city we call home.
This is rugby, and we are Nola Gold.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is brought to you by the 3900 block of magazine, including Sotra, fine decorative items for the home, including wonderful bedding and stock sheeting. Also Elysian, designs from the country of Turkey, clothing, shoes, and other fabulous personal accessories. And Julian Mack Fine Art, with some of the finest pieces from around the country.
Watch WLAE Digital Broadcast Channel 32.3 for Catholic TV, offering programming relevant to Catholic viewers, including live religious services, Vatican events, talk shows, devotional programs, educational entertainment, and children's programs. You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.
Hello, I'm Lisa Flood.
And I'm Jason Gillette, and welcome to Faith and Marriage Today.
Jason and I are so excited today. We feel like we are pumped up. It's almost game day. We are on location at Christ the King at LSU, and we are so honored to be joined by Father Matthew Dunn, pastor of Christ the King, and Patrick Tolles. And Patrick, tell us your title here.
Yeah, I'm the development director. So here at Christ the King, I'm the guy that goes outside of Christ the King to make sure we have enough money to run Christ the King.
Well, I'm here to tell you, for me as an alum of LSU and as a Tiger mom of 2 sons, Jason, you're a Tiger parent.
Tiger dad of 1 and now 2 next year, so praise God.
Praise Jesus.
I can tell you what I have seen through the years at this place, Jesus Christ is alive at Christ the King at LSU. Father Matthew, let's begin with you. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been here and how you see God moving in your spiritual children.
Yes.
You have a lot of them.
Over
I do.
30,000.
Yes, more than I ever thought I would, actually. So I was ordained a priest in 2020 and then came here in 2022, that July. So I spent a year here as the associate pastor under Father Andrew Merrick, and then became pastor when Bishop Duca appointed me as such this past July. And over the past year and a half, we're going on 2 years at this point, I've seen lots and lots of fruit in the students, on the campus, my own priesthood, our staff, in a way that honestly, total honesty, I didn't think would ever really be possible. Being in a parish for 2 years, I saw a lot of good things in the normal, quote unquote, normal day-to-day ministry with families and young kids in PSR for their formation and sacramental prep, the youth group and such. But then you come here and it's a totally different entity. I usually tell people what's unique about a college campus is that in a normal parish, again, quote unquote, you mainly only see most of your parishioners at Sunday Mass.
Right.
Here at Christ the King, I see lots of parishioners almost 24/7. They're always here, the coffee shop and such, just hanging out. So it's been good for me as a priest personally, but it's also been good to see that the students call this place home. They really do, in a very real and tangible way, find a home in the church. They know that they can come and visit the Lord in adoration, come to the daily masses, the Bible studies, and all the different things that we'll talk about, but they really find this as home first, which has to be the case. If the church is not home, then we'll never receive anything. I don't go and hang out at somebody's house just because, I like it. I have to find a place there that suits me, that I feel that I have a place here and I matter and I make a difference and I'm welcomed here. And it's the same thing with the church. So what's unique about this place is that the Lord is alive, as you said. He is working, the Spirit is moving, and the students find a place here that they can call home and then be fed spiritually as well.
Praise God.
Well, all glory to God.
Amen.
We know
And
you take your role as a spiritual father very seriously, and we pray for you, Father. So thank you for your yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Patrick, how did you land at Christ the King at LSU?
Yeah, great question. So my first year, I was served with Focus for 5 years, the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. My first year I was here at LSU. It would have been 2018 to 2019, and it's when Father Andrew and Allie Dazio were here. Developed a great relationship with them. Ended up moving on to another campus. The last 3 years I was at Ohio State in Columbus, which had around 70,000 students, which was just a wild experience. But this past summer, I just missed South Louisiana.
How could you not?
Yeah, exactly. And just the people are, I don't know, it's a very loyal place. And I feel very at home here, and it's been wonderful to be back at Christ the King.
Well, I know you're doing great work here too.
Oh, thank you.
Jason and I have been laughing as we are, Tiger parents and talking a lot amongst ourselves in our friendship about what it's like launching kids into college.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of temptations, new experiences. They're going into this new place, this new space, and to be ready for that. And so, maybe for people who have children that are in college now, maybe who are about to have sending off their kids to college, and even for maybe those who are watching who are college students themselves or about to be college students, what advice can you give, especially being in this environment? This isn't a Catholic university, right? But here we have this great location, LSU, and we're Christ the King here on campus, and you're the pastor for these souls. What advice can you give?
I think it's one of, you have to hold things in tension, right? So best piece of advice is something here all throughout the scriptures. Be not afraid. There's a lot to be afraid of. There's a lot to get nervous about. And I understand where parents are coming from, and I hear it all the time. Parents that I've known throughout the years and as a priest in ministry, growing up at home, hey, my son, my daughter's coming to LSU. I'm worried. They don't really practice the faith now. What is there available? How can you bring them in? I said, okay, first of all, don't be afraid. Yeah. We have to call it for what it is. A university campus is not the friendliest environment for the faith, for someone trying to live out the faith. That's clear and that's obvious.
Anywhere.
I don't think, anywhere for sure. And I think especially for young adults who are coming from a loving family, maybe a great high school experience, or the total opposite, there is a place here for them. And what I normally tell parents is, number one, never stop praying for your children. Pray and fast. The Lord says when you pray, when you fast, you have to do that. Never discount the power of the prayers of a mom or a dad. You know, the famous story of St. Monica praying for St. Augustine. Never stop praying and fasting for your children. Never just give up and say, well, they're too far gone. There's no such thing for the Lord. And the other thing is, you know, realize that you're not alone. As parents, I think, obviously I'm not a biological parent, but I understand that notion of my children have done this, I've raised them to do this, and they do or don't practice the faith in X, Y, or Z ways. But I see all these other children and these other families and these other parents and their kids are just wonderful, and said, okay, you're not alone in that. You're not alone. The enemy wants you to think you're alone. He wants you to be ostracized and think, okay, my children are too far gone. Again, there's no such thing for the Lord. So that word of advice that I have is hold it in tension that yes, it's difficult, but it's also very possible. Nothing is impossible for Jesus Christ. He is risen, he's alive, and he's alive on this campus, and he desires their hearts, their souls. What I'll usually tell people when they come with those different burdens, and totally understandable, but I said, okay, if you love your child and you want your child to know the Lord and to get to heaven, how much more so does the Lord desire them and love them infinitely more than you or I ever could? And it might be kind of, it takes you back a second to think, well, no one loves my child more than I do. Well, Jesus does. And he desires them and pursues them more than I ever could as their pastor, more than you ever could as their mom or dad. So you can't be afraid in that. You can't lose hope. You can't lose faith. Always pray and fast. And, you know, those gentle nudges of, you know, not abrasive, did you go to Mass this weekend? Or, hey, I know Christ the King has several Mass times. Maybe you can check that out sometime. Or they have this event coming up. I have parents all the time saying, hey, I follow your Instagram and I see this big event coming up. I'm going to tell my kids about it. Can you reach out to them and invite them too? So, okay, so do that. Be up to date on what's going on and gently invite, never force, never push, but simply plant those seeds and realize that it's the Lord's work. And he will continue to water and to sow and to prune the vine and do all these different things as long as you plant the seed and be not afraid and trust it to them and trust your children to him and let him take it from there.
Praise God.
Well, especially at Christ the King, we have a special prayer ministry for parents. This seems like a good moment to talk about Our Ladies Fighting Tigers.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of LSU alums far and wide.
Yeah.
Would you speak for a moment about the power of the praying group, Our Ladies Fighting Tigers?
Yeah. So Our Ladies Fighting Tigers, it's funny, when I first got here, I was like, oh, this is an event for moms. This is great. Moms come pray. And then
I thought the same thing.
And then they're like, no, actually it's for everyone. I was like, okay, well, maybe we should have it on a time where everybody can get here. So we moved it to the weekend. And we recognize as Catholics that Christ is the primary cause of evangelization and conversion. Right, as much as I want my friends and my family to come back to the church. Right, Jesus is the primary mover, and so when we pray and fast, especially in a place like Our Ladies Fighting Tigers, where we come together in adoration and pray the Rosary and and just encounter Jesus, we're understanding that Lord, only you move hearts, and it's a great time for. Parents who I'm sure have similar experience, right? For parents, students come, benefactors of Christ the King who have a spiritual stake in this place and want to see Jesus known here at Christ the King and here on LSU's campus. So it's a ton of fun. We just had our one in the spring. Scott Johnson spoke so beautifully about his relationship with his parents, and we're going to have it again in the fall. So hope to see more people there.
So if somebody, I guess we'll say at the end, the website will capture all of these things. We're going to talk about a lot.
It's all on the website.
It's all on the website.
I think about the prayer and the fasting, and it's like, that you reference, Monica and St. Augustine, and it was actually, right, it was St. Ambrose. So it was St. Augustine hearing St. Ambrose and that pull in his heart and to help with the conversion. But the point is that would not have happened had not the tears and the prayers of Monica, St. Monica, to pouring out for her son. So there's this responsibility that we have as parents for our children to pray, to fast, to intercede for them, and then but also too to pray for those St. Ambroses that are out there that are going to be those witnesses for them here. So we'll be praying for y'all as well, and just continue to wrap up everything that y'all are doing in the prayer with the Lord, and allowing the Holy Spirit to guide y'all as well, to help both, that we come together in this work.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Father, I know you recently had a Eucharistic procession and something really powerful happened. Would you share with us how the Lord moved?
So apart from bringing the Lord physically in the Blessed Sacrament onto our campus to let him be seen, because it was Easter Tuesday, it was during the octave, And providentially enough, we celebrated the Mass here and then went straight onto campus. The gospel reading was the account of Mary Magdalene seeing the risen Christ. And she goes and tells the disciples, I have seen the Lord.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know until that morning when I opened the lectionary at the rectory to say, okay, what am I preaching about today? It just kind of struck me that I have seen the Lord. Mary Magdalene says it, the other disciples say it, I get to say it, I've seen the Lord. And so my homily that evening was, I want every soul on this campus to see the Lord. I want everyone to wholeheartedly be able to say, I have seen the risen Lord. I've seen him. I know he's real. I know he's here. And so we fast forward, we bring the Blessed Sacrament onto campus, we circle the parade grounds. And I didn't know this until after we get back to the church and reposition. But as we're going to the parade grounds over to the Greek amphitheater for praise and worship and adoration and consecration of the campus, there's a guy who was crossing the parade grounds. He's a grad student who is not Catholic, but saw us walking the canopy with the Blessed Sacrament and the 150 or so people following behind. And he joined in the procession. And he stayed the whole time. He praised the Lord with us at the amphitheater. He listened to